Our next speaker is Dr. Martha Louzada, the lead on myeloma research at the London Regional Cancer Program and physician team member at the myeloma clinic at the program. Dr. Louzada, welcome.
Thank you, Devin. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be together again, even though we're not, really in-person meeting. I really miss the physical connection with all of you. One of the things I love about our walk, and I believe this is the 8th walk that we have in London for London proceedings, so I'm so thankful to all of you. I really miss the connection between, the families, the patients, myself, my family, our research group, our other physician colleagues that love multiple myeloma so much and love participating in your lives just like I do. But anyways, I'm really happy to be here today with you guys to share this one more moment of happiness, hope, and really fight against multiple myeloma.
Thanks for that. Let's do a quick Q&A here. Just to start, how important is this event in helping raising funds for clinical trials?
It's extremely important, Evan, because the funds help us in several different ways. So we have the funds helping us with the database that we run. It's a multiple myeloma database centered in Toronto. It's a cross-country database, and we have the funds helping us to deliver the database, keep it up to date with our London patients. And one thing I want to thank all of the patients is that we have 99.9% of patients accepting to participate in the database, letting the unidentified data on their disease progression to be part of this big group and really help in research. We've been able to publish several different articles using our myeloma database information together with our other colleagues across Canada. On top of this, the funds from the Walk of Champions have funded a few trials, a few smaller studies that are really born here in London. So the two most recent ones we have are the Rhythm trial that's finished in London, but we still have a few other centers running in Ontario. And we have now a new proposal that our multiple myeloma support group have just agreed to release some funds, which is going to be looking into something really novel, which is a novel protein to try to measure the disease burden and response to disease treatment. So this is really outbreaking, and our group with the Walk of Champions is funding that. So this is very important and makes us all really happy.
I was just about to ask about some of the trials we have currently going and are planning, so that's great to hear. Do you think London will be able to get a CAR T trial or a BiTEs trial at some point?
Yeah, well, we're looking forward for this. We're working hard for this. So for that part, we've been working with our bone marrow transplant team. The bone marrow transplant team is working on all the paperwork that's required for us to have CAR T cells. Right now, I believe that the greatest barrier to have a CAR T trial is really Health Canada, and I understand it because we have to have a certain excellence, a pattern of excellence in the hospital to be able to move on with those trials. We do have the practical excellence, but we don't have the paperwork ready. So this paperwork has actually been going on now for 2.5 years, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get the accreditation that we need within the next 6 months to a year at the most. And then all we'll need is really to have the companies coming with the BiTE trials and the CAR T cell to London. Right now, we only have in Canada, Toronto, and there are hopes for Ottawa, Montreal, and perhaps Calgary to lead trials as well. But right now, this is what we have in terms of positive CAR T cell trials coming up to Canada.
Are you finding more patients are willing to participate in clinical trials than, say, 5 years ago?
That's a difficult question. I think it's hit and miss. I think it's a lot to do with the patient personal experience and understanding. I have to say that a lot of our patients want to participate in clinical trials, and sometimes they're upset if they're not candidates, even if I'm able to give them the best treatment possible. Sometimes we have a clinical trial that's not sometimes, actually, a lot of times we're working clinical trials that work with the standard of care versus a new drug, and the patient is a perfect candidate for the standard of care or the new drug combination. And for some reason, they're not able to participate in the clinical trial. They're upset because they wanted to, help others with their data, not because they're not getting the newer drug, because they know they still can get, good treatment with the standard of care through the regular routine treatment avenue. So we do have a lot of patients that are willing, but we still have those that think they're guinea pigs. And I have to say, this is mostly like the more elderly patients. They think they're guinea pigs, and it's not that, right? We know it's not that. We know that research is built in a lot of steps, and when they come to the humans, it's because a lot of those steps have been actually trialed in guinea pigs and other animals, and then we have sometimes healthy volunteers experiencing the drugs, or we have patients that are very, very sick that start experiencing the drugs. So it's at least 5 or 6 steps before they actually come into place and come to us for a larger clinical trial. But the one point that I wanted to make is that because we notice an opening in our patients' way into looking to clinical trials, we've been able to start some earlier phases clinical trials. So we're just being worked up with our research ethics board to start our first phase 1 clinical trial. So the phase 1 is when you have only, a handful of patients entering the trial to really test the drug effects in the patient system regarding positive results and also adverse events. So we're going to be spearheading this phase 1 clinical trial with Bristol Myers Squibb. That's going to be coming up hopefully soon. The trial was actually to be running already, but with the COVID, everything has been put on hold. But we're hopeful that we'll have the clinical trial coming up.
How are trials promoted to patients and their caregivers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we try to, on the day-to-day routine. So the physicians are responsible for inviting the patients to participate in the clinical trials. We only really broadcast when we know the patient needs it. Otherwise, every patient that is not a candidate but is willing to get something new, they will want to participate, and that can get a lot of anxiety, I think, among the patients. I do think that perhaps we should have a better communication if the heads of the myeloma support group in London want. We could give them some updates, like more accurate and frequent updates regarding the trials that are going through. We do meet a few times a year and we go over all of that, but maybe we should have, because we have things happening all the time, even though I think they're slow, they're always happening. So I think this is a place where we have some room definitely to improve, but we never miss offering a study for a patient when we see the patient in clinic. So the way it happens is we explain a little bit of the clinical trial. If the patient appears to be accepting the idea of participating in the trial, then our research coordinator comes in place, gives more detailed explanation, and the patients take a summary, a written summary of what the trial entails. And then there is a consent that the patient needs to sign. But it's important that the patient and caregivers know that if a patient accepts to participate in a clinical trial, even if he or she want to quit the trial at some point they can, because nobody's attached to it. The patient is completely free to start and finish whenever he or she want to, if they think it's not a good idea for them, even after they sign the consent.
2020 has been a year to remember for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
I think we're always looking for optimism, and when you look at what's going on right now, there is some optimism in there. So what makes you most optimistic as we sit here today about what the future could bring?
Well, one thing that we know about our London patients is that we overall in our cancer patients, hematology cancer patients, we haven't had any COVID, severe COVID cases. So this is a must. I think COVID has brought to the people in general a feeling of union and unity. Hope. I think we've been developing more and more hope. I think we've been together with our families more as well, which in part makes it better. And I feel overall, especially at the hospital, a beautiful sense of respect that not always we would see. So it's a two-way respect that I see amongst the various people that get together in the day-to-day routine in clinic, and that makes me happy. I think COVID is terrible because it's been taking the lives of so many people, but the good part of it is the sense that life is more than simply getting things, right? We can get not material things, but we can get good bonds, emotions, and I think this is the good part of the bad stuff.
Well said. Any final comments before we move on?
Well, I would like to thank everybody from the myeloma support group for always being, behind and broadcasting for multiple myeloma cure and multiple myeloma hope. And I would like to say, like I think I say that every year, I am so proud to be part of this community, and I am so happy to be able to help patients that are suffering. I really have all of you very dearly in my heart. And yeah, I think if I continue to say more things, I'm going to start crying because I'm an easy crying person.
Dr. Louzada, I appreciate you joining us today, and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.